Now to a major shakeup in education. Today, President Obama called on the federal government to change course on standardized testing. He says he wants more emphasis on learning and less on test scores.
The average American student will take 112 state-mandated standardized tests by the time they graduate from high school. In countries such as China and Korea that are consistently placed higher than the United States in international rankings, students will on average only take 3 tests during the duration of their primary and secondary educations. A little less than 40 years after Lyndon B. Johnson passed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, also known as the ESEA, in 1965, in 2002, Congress put into place a newer and more regulated piece of educational legislation called No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind increased the role of federal government in ensuring that schools were meeting standards that would ensure that the United States would become internationally competitive. The idea was to make American students more competitive and bridge the gap in education between poor minority students and the wealthy. The disparity in educational quality between America and other nations was clear. An international study in the 1990s tested 13-year-olds in mathematics in 15 countries. The United States placed next to last above Jordan. Furthermore, in 1973, the U.S. rank was 14th out of 14 countries. In the mid-1980s, the U.S. rank in biology was 13th out of 13 countries, 11th out of 13 in chemistry, and 9th out of 13 in physics. Almost a decade later, in 1991, the U.S. was still ranked 13th out of 15 in science. In addition to these setbacks, in top areas like Shanghai, students had math scores that were 2.5 years ahead of the math education of students in Massachusetts, the highest performing state in the country. No Child Left Behind forced all states to give an exam from grades 3 to 12 to ensure proficiency. However, the standard of what proficient was up to the state. If the state was deemed to be less than that standard, then the school was obligated to provide an alternative opportunity for students in terms of their education. For example, the school must assist in the facilitation of transfers to other public schools or even allow government intervention. While No Child Left Behind did cause test scores in math and reading to go up, it still wasn't enough to properly improve the education system or allow the nation to catch up to countries like China or India. Additionally, many states continually failed to meet the level of proficiency, and no attempts at making changes were being made. As a result, the Obama administration and Department of Education introduced what is known as Common Core. Common Core is the largest initiative in the Department of Education that focuses on ensuring that students from all across the country know and expect the same material for preparation of college and the workforce. It mainly focuses on 2 subjects, English and math. Common Core was created by a group of educators, one of whom is now the president of the College Board, one of the largest standardized test companies in the country. The emphasis of Common Core was supported by the federal government after they created what was called the Race to the Top. It was a $3.4 billion grant that gave greater state funding to states that adopted the Common Core curriculum. It caused many states to adopt this curriculum even if the people or the state did not agree with it. Common Core does not specify the textbooks, classroom materials, or lesson plans that have to be implemented. Rather, it gives a core guideline of what should be discussed to ensure proper preparedness for the standardized tests. However, to stay in line with the program and meet the average requirements, many schools have been forced to completely change their lesson plans and their difficulty of work. While much data is still being collected about the overall trends resulting from Common Core, there are both negative and positive effects that have resulted from the more centralized system of education. One main complaint of Common Core is that teachers mainly only teach to the test. This has resulted in narrower curriculum in schools, a less wide range of topics, and instead of practical learning such as experiments or observations, much of classroom time is now spent doing practice test work. Many also argue that placing such great importance on standardized tests causes unnecessary stress. Many students feel as though they must do well on tests to succeed. The amount of work that students have to do for these tests is also deemed unnecessary. Many students are discouraged from subjects like math and science due to the difficulty of these tests, counteracting the overall purpose of Common Core, which was to encourage students to enjoy and become more engaged in academics. President Obama and the Department of Education acknowledge the unintended consequence of too much focus on the test, and attempts have been made to reduce the value placed on how standardized tests are treated in the classroom. Despite the change in classroom atmosphere to a greater focus on standardization, progress has actually been made in improving test scores in the state of education in America. To quote the Brown Center report on American education, 4th and 8th grade students that adopted Common Core state standards outperformed their peers in the National Assessment of Education between 2009 and 2013. Many education experts and researchers are hopeful that with more time, even greater positive effects of Common Core will begin to emerge, even if that progress takes a bit of time. As America has tried to catch up its education system to many other developed countries, there's been a strong emphasis placed on standardized testing. The rise in standardized testing is highly controversial, and there is great debate over whether or not it is necessary. However, one thing remains clear. Education is a national priority that must continue to be improved to ensure America remains a dominant force in the world.